the Bourbon Lore meets New York City extravaganza. We haven't had an opportunity to bring Bourbon Lore to the city officially until this trip. Today we're here at Clay Risen's personal estate in Brooklyn that's just extraordinary. Dating back to the 1800s. But Clay, thanks for having us here.
Hey, no, it's a pleasure. It's a just dream come true to have you here.
Yeah, well, and nice setup is we've been staying downstairs. So for those that have not been to New York, there's like 4 stories here, and it's about 30 feet wide, but it goes really deep and really tall.
Always happy to host.
So thank you for having us, brother.
Absolutely.
And Emerson, I know we all know who this guy is here, but just maybe give a little shout out. Who's Frank Dobbins in the American whiskey world?
Frank Dobbins III, also known as at Burb Your Enthusiasm, one of the biggest rays of sunshine in the American whiskey world. He's a writer, he's a reviewer, he's an all-around everyone's best friend in the best way. We love Frank. Frank, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm honestly so excited to be here, and it's really an honor. Thank you so much for hosting us, Clay.
Oh, you're great people, so we're happy to have you.
When we were first kind of basically bringing the idea of Bourbon Lore together late last year, or I should say early last year, and officially kind of kicking things off in September, David Jennings was the one that was actually like, Frank Dobbins, you have to meet this guy. He's amazing. He's bringing something unique and fresh to the American whiskey scene. Great writer, just an amazing human. So I was like, okay, all right, let's meet this guy. And I have to say, it's been a real blessing to have you be a part of the Bourbon Lore journey. You've been on a kind of fascinating ride here with what you've been doing on your own. So I would love it if you wouldn't mind sharing a few words with how did this whole thing come about for you with American whiskey?
Sure. So we were talking a little bit earlier about how I kind of got my start in this, but I was already writing. I was doing SEO writing, a couple of things, bouncing around, and I was going into the office when the pandemic happened. Obviously a life-changing moment for everyone. It was a game changer. Well, they wanted me to keep going into the office, and it just didn't sit right with me. I was like, I want to work from home. I want to be able to have some freedom. So from there, I said, you know what? Let me just find a way to create a space for myself where I can work from home and do something that I'm really passionate about. Yeah. I looked around, surrounded by bottles. I'm like, I'm already writing. Yeah. I might as well write about whiskey. So I started doing that about 3 years ago now, and then I've really kind of just explored my my path in this space since then, and it's been a blessing. Meeting fantastic people, getting on the road, trying incredible whiskey, and then having the opportunity to tell the story of American whiskey, kind of similar to what Bourbon Lore is doing. So it's been really great for me trying to get my start in this industry, but it's also been amazing getting to know you all because I feel like we're on similar paths.
Amen, bro. Yeah. Appreciate that. Thank you.
You've really found a cult following. Like people, like what you say is like, it's like Bourbon Church, I feel like. Really. Like I have friends that will text me and be like, you see what Frank said about this bottle? Like I just watched his review. And so
even David Thomas Tao was saying that yesterday when we were at his place.
So you've managed to capture this like aura about you that people are really attracted to. So keep doing what you're doing.
Well, it's just about having fun. I mean, we all are here because we enjoy this space. We love the whiskey, but the fellowship and the friends that you meet along the way, it's not cliche to say that that's the best part of it. So the more people you meet, the more stories you're able to tell, the more stories you're able to experience. And I feel like that's what I'm all here for. That's what I'm all about.
Yeah. What excites you right now about American whiskey and where things are going?
I think the most exciting thing for me is that there's so much newness. For so long, American whiskey was kind of stuck in this old boys club and everyone looked alike. And, the whiskey was all good, but we didn't have things like finishing or American single malt or straight malts. So the fact that there's this new chapter kind of being opened, I'm glad that we're all here kind of on the first page of this new chapter because that's what's exciting for me is kind of rewriting the history of whiskey and bourbon.
Yeah. I feel like whiskey, we were kind of talking about this yesterday together, but American whiskey is kind of an anomaly because it's so rich in history and it goes all the way back to the mid 1800s. I mean, the 2 bottles that are up at auction today for Sotheby's are mid 1800s. Yet there's like this renaissance of American whiskey where everyone is rediscovering America's native spirit, and it's really cool because it's simultaneously super fresh yet full of history. And so, nailed it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Now, there's also some individuals here like Clay Risen will say American whiskey dates back even to the earliest days of Scotch. But we won't get into that right now. It's another episode.
True.
Set up. When did you first really like discover bourbon? Like when did that come into your life? Like where were you? What was going on? I'm just kind of curious, like how did you fall in love or first get introduced to American whiskey?
Sure. So for me, it was interesting because I feel like I was going to bars and I was having cocktails, having drinks. At the time, my favorite drink was Maker's Mark. Still love Maker's Mark.
Shout out to Rob Samuels.
I know. I was just gonna say we love Rob.
But I would go into bars and it was kind of that cliche moment where someone would sit down next to you and they would say, let me have my usual. Let me have what I always get.
Right.
And I sat there and I thought to myself, I was like, I don't really have a go-to drink. So I wanted to start exploring the landscape of spirits and try to figure out what would be my go-to drink. So I already liked Maker's Mark. I started going down the rabbit hole of American whiskey. Figured out that I like bourbon more than rye, which is how I became Burb Your Enthusiasm, because I just got so enthusiastic about bourbon and trying all the different flavors in bourbon.
I love it.
I was like, I can just exist in this world for the rest of my life and be happy.
Amen.
Do you remember what like the first aha moment you had with a neat pour of whiskey?
Absolutely. Yeah. So when I started exploring, I got a couple of bottles. They were Four Roses single barrel, Blanton single barrel, which you got to get when you're starting. You got to do Blantons.
Iconic.
And then I got Eagle Rare. And at the time, I didn't realize that those were all single barrel products. So I tried the Blantons, loved it. Tried the Four Roses, loved it. I tried the Eagle Rare, and I hated it. And I was confused. I didn't know if this was really for me because I had something that kind of threw me for a loop. I was like, am I really a bourbon fan or is this just kind of a fluke? So really not liking that Eagle Rare is really what sent me down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out what it is about American whiskey and bourbon that I'm really attracted to. And then when I revisited Eagle Rare, of course, I tried it and I loved it.
Yeah. Cool.
Let's go back to last year.
Okay.
Highlights from last year for you. I'm just curious, like share with us, some of those defining moments where you're like, wow, what a freaking incredible year. What'd you do?
Last year was amazing. First of all, going with Bourbon Lore and checking out Arizona, we could talk about that all day.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I would say just getting more experience in the industry, going to Kentucky, meeting a whole bunch of really cool people from master distillers to the guy that's sitting next to you at the bar and just hearing his story. That's been a lot of fun. One thing that was really, really exciting for me last year was in 2022, my grandmother passed away. And when she did, I wanted to do something to kind of honor her memory. And so I told myself, I'm going to go to Kentucky. I'm going to try a bunch of different whiskey, try everything that I've ever wanted to try, and try to find something that I feel like is just sublime, something that would really take my breath away, stop time, and give me a reason to kind of sit back and reflect on life. Yeah. And I did that. The bottle that I ended up finding that was that for me was the Master Distiller Selection 14-year from Wild Turkey. And so when I had that pour, it was just a light bulb moment.
The 06, right?
Yes.
That was the
export.
export.
The export
that is
only.
David Jennings, the expert Wild Turkey. That is his self-proclaimed favorite pour of all time.
Yeah.
I think
that is an
that's the
iconic
best.
whiskey.
That's beautiful. Seriously, brother.
Thank you. So as soon as I tried it, I knew that was going to be the one for me. Bought a bottle, and now every time I open it, I share it just with the greatest of friends, the greatest of family, and I just take those moments to kind of sit and reflect on life and reflect on family and friends and where I am today. Yeah, that was the most amazing moment.
Wow.
Well said. I love that, and I mean, I think there's a big piece of. We were talking about this a little bit this week. We've been in a variety of meetings, and we're over at Sotheby's kicking off this week on a American whiskey panel, and Zev over there asked, like, are there some certain bottles that, mean certain things to you? And I think that's, there's an expression for each of our kind of different chapters and different moments to where I remember certain things or certain events or certain experiences because of that expression. And now I get to share it, and I kind of am able to continue to, I think, appreciate whatever that might be, right? If it was the trip that we did in Arizona and opening up a 16-year, like I'll never sip on another 16-year and not think about that amazing moment, right? Yeah. So I think it's beautiful. You get to think about your family and the blessings of that every time you get to enjoy that expression or see it somewhere and have a story to share that literally just warmed my heart to where now I want to go find that bottle out of our own collection and toast your family. So
thank you for that.
It's awesome.
When you first heard about Bourbon Lore, and I'm not sure if it was before the invite to the trip or not, but like, what did you think? You're like, what is this? What the heck's going on? Like, what is this?
You can give the the candid.
No, yeah, pure honesty. We were talking to David Thomas Tao yesterday, and he gave a very honest answer. We loved it, and we're just curious about you.
And like we're saying, we're new to the scene, so
Well, so when I first found out about it, I was in New York. I was on the train going back to New Jersey, and I got a call from David Jennings, very excited, and he was like, "Listen, I just want to tell you something. there's this epic thing that's coming and you need to be a part of it. And I was like, brother, tell me more.
That's quite the introduction. Most people don't get that.
So he kind of goes into it and he's like, I can't tell you much, but they're going to be private jets and there's going to be a Grand Canyon. And I was like, all right, I've heard enough. Count me in. So that was kind of my introduction, was David just excitedly telling me that there's this amazing thing that's coming and that I needed to be a part of it. So
Man, you were well primed.
And
that's awesome.
when did we first meet?
when did we first meet? Oh, we met when we went to Kentucky.
Correct.
So we were in Lexington. I was at Justin's House of Bourbon, and I just see all these cool dudes roll in. And I was just like, this is the moment. This is the Bourbon Lore moment for me. I'm about to experience it. And so I already knew Clay, but seeing Emerson, seeing you, Mason, I mean, I was like, I'm excited for what's going to come. And then we had an amazing tasting that day.
Yeah. Share with us what did Ryan make happen that night?
Oh gosh! So the tasting that we had James E. Pepper, which was MGP sourced, which was 15 years.
15 years,
I believe.
15 year rye old, right?
Just amazing.
Yeah.
We had some throwback wild turkey. We had Booker's Rye, which a lot of people consider one of the best ryes.
Fresh crack too.
Yeah, it was a fresh crack. I mean, we just had some epic pours. Not to mention, Mark Carter rolls through also. So hanging out, drinking with him, and just oh gosh, it was so much fun.
Yeah. That 80s old granddad bonded.
That's right. Oh, how
that
about
was
it?
Liquid
great.
gold. Yeah. Butterscotch bomb.
Loved it.
Yeah. Drinking that with Mark Carter and seeing his infectious smile.
Yes.
Now I can't help but think of Mark Carter every time I drink honestly.
That's fun.
Yeah.
All right, take us to Scottsdale, right?
Sure.
You did exactly so. We've kind of shared a little bit with Bourbon Lore around. We really want to ensure that we're curating some incredible content on the story of American whiskey by being able to not only photograph some of the most kind of legendary bottles, but when you have Clay and David and Emerson and others able to come together and help being able to share the story and behind the scenes facts that maybe haven't ever really been written in the way that they are today. Really unique, really special opportunity. But the other piece is we want to be able to open these bottles, right? We want to be able to experience these bottles. We want to be able to share these bottles. We don't want them just sit on a shelf and never get a chance to actually live again, right? So we thought, all right, how do you start with Bourbon Lore, unique experience, kicking things off, launch party? Well, let's go to Scottsdale. Let's go to Arizona for me, where my family and I've been for a lot of generations, and do something that would be absolutely legend to pay tribute and respect to some legends of the American whiskey world. Both in the bottles and the expressions, as well as in some amazing people doing some cool stuff. So share with us a little bit, what was that experience like?
Oh my gosh. From night one, it was just mind blowing. For starters, I mean, just the people that you're meeting and the conversation you're having with, Zach Johnston and yourself, Mason, Emerson, some incredible people. Chef Edward Lee, was there. So just the community that was built, just seeing the people that were there immediately, you're like, okay, this is going to be fun. We're all going to be sharing experiences, sharing our story, and like really talking about things that are meaningful to us. So from night one, I was like, this is awesome. Trey Wade, so many cool people.
Yeah.
So then, going over the Grand Canyon, I haven't been to the Grand Canyon personally since I was like 8 years old. And at the time, I was deathly afraid of going to the edge and like looking over. I mean, I just had this terrible fear of heights and everything like that. So going to see the Grand Canyon, flying above it, and then walking up to the edge for the first time, I mean, it just takes your breath away.
It does.
And that's before, you get to A.H. Hirsch, 16 year.
Clay cracking.
Clay with the fresh crack.
Happy to do it.
I mean, and I think part of what made it great is that you had Clay there to kind of talk about his history with the bottle when he picked it up, and then also tell the history of the whiskey itself. It just kind of adds that extra layer of appreciation. And then I think, Emerson, you were kind of talking about it, just great whiskey in great places, and that it just really was a parallel of having this amazing experience, having this amazing whiskey and experiencing them both at the same time. I mean, it just, for me, it was very much an aha moment. It was very much something that, opened my eyes to why we're all here and why we appreciate this whiskey so much, is because there's more that goes into it than just the liquid.
Right. No, well said. And one thing we were just talking about earlier before we kick things off here was, we think the world of Connor and what he's doing at Heaven Hill and some of the magic that he's bringing in some of these incredible bottles, right? what a unique opportunity for us to be able to share our love and our appreciation by surprising him when we were at the Tecovas collaboration with Bourbon Lore, and being able to open up that 17 year to where hopefully now when he thinks about that 17 year, that's clearly one of his favorites, he'll never forget the moment where he shared it with a group of 25 of his new friends at the Tecova store with a musician playing in the background, and Ashley and I doing a little
that was fantastic.
little dancing that you caught there that you saw the video after. I was like, oh. But yeah, you're right. I mean, those moments and the friendships. Anybody you didn't know that you left there feeling like, wow, this is a new friend that I feel really grateful to be able to have in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. A number of people. I mean, I feel like that experience really kind of bonded us all together.
Yeah.
So we all have that, in common. And I was telling you, Mason, a little bit earlier about how when we went to the Tecova store, it felt like Christmas, because you walk in and you see this beautiful display, and everyone was just so excited to have their own boots. Everyone's like in the mirror trying them on, checking themselves out. You know what I mean?
Get the Bourbon Lore brand.
The brand.
Yeah.
And you can smell it, it's like the burnt leather, like the smell, like the fire.
And then having that tied to the Heaven Hill 17 year, which is a whiskey that I already enjoyed and I've had before, but now like my core memory of that whiskey is tied to that experience.
Yeah,
just so cool.
And seeing Connor's eyes light up with excitement when he saw that we had that surprise for him.
Yeah.
And him giving that toast, which was incredible.
Yep.
Everything was such a moment. Like, it's like moment after moment after moment. And I've always said that trip was a spiritual experience. It was more emotional than I ever could have imagined it would be. And seeing people connect, and like, it was an aha moment for me too. Like, it was like in the moment at the Grand Canyon, opening a bottle with like-minded people who love American whiskey. It was chills. It was like, oh, I get it. Yeah. It's like, this is timeless. This is something that I will never forget. And it like tugged at the heartstrings. And it made me fall in love with American whiskey almost in a new way, I would say.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I agree.
Absolutely.
The magic of Bourbon Lore. Let's flip the tables here for a minute.
Sure.
You've got some incredible people sitting here. I'd love to hear, what would you like to ask Clay Risen on camera and being recorded?
Ooh.
Okay.
Clay.
Fire away.
I have so many questions for Clay. I think where I would start is with the generic, and just kind of say, like, Clay, what have you seen change in the American whiskey landscape that you like, and what have you seen change that you do not like over the last 10 years?
Well, I think the emergence of a really vibrant community around American whiskey is exciting. That's maybe the thing that I've seen that's most energizing. I think 10 years ago, you certainly had a group of people, a large group of people who liked American whiskey, but didn't necessarily, outside of a small group, a very disparate group, really talk about it in meaningful ways, having conversations about not just palate and flavor and nose, but heritage and history, and there really wasn't a shared vocabulary. And now I think that's emerged, and it's thanks to folks like yourself and David and Mason and Emerson, I mean, people who are very passionate about it in a very deep way. And so that's been what energizes me the most. The flip side of that, of course, unfortunately, is that as a result, prices have gone up. There's all the negative sides of hype, right? Which you can't do anything about. And that is whenever you have something that people are passionate about, there's also going to be a lot of hype that drives scarcity. It drives and hopefully, I'm okay with that as long as it doesn't push people out. Yeah. I think one of the things that is wonderful about American whiskey as opposed to some other categories is that, at least at the moment, it has an open door. You can come in. There are lots of entry points. There's a lot of friendliness. And I think that's what attracts a lot of people to the category right now. I'm always on the lookout to make sure that door doesn't close,
right,
and that it doesn't become something that is forbidding.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, I think I have one more question, Clay, because I'm really curious how you feel about your own space in the industry. And I mean, obviously, you've written some iconic articles that people reference time and time again, some amazing books that are great reference pieces, for people in the industry or people getting into the industry. So how do you feel like you've personally impacted the whiskey industry?
Oh, I don't think I've had that much of an influence. No, it's look, it's hard to say. I've been very lucky to be a journalist who gets to write about something that he loves, and to have started doing it at a relatively early point through outlets that give me a lot of access to a variety of people who are not already in the whiskey world.
Right.
So being able to talk about what this thing is that we love to people who may not understand or may just be curious about it. So, I guess in that respect, I think my role has been an informer and hopefully a broadener in that sense, opening that door, allowing people to maybe understand a little bit more about what goes into American whiskey and why it's something that folks like us are passionate about. And I leave it to others to decide how effective that's been, but that's where I see myself.
I will say when when Clay first called me, I was like, wait, the guy that I actually have, this guy that I own these books, like this is the same Clay Risett. But those, I think, it's neat to look at this table and others that we're, working with, as everybody's bringing something different to the American whiskey scene in a good way that's very complementary. And I think together, high tides raise all ships. And I think it's a beautiful thing that there's this many individuals that are coming together to help tell the story of a spirit that we're all proud of, but also to tell the story of the communities and the people that we really enjoy and feel so fortunate to have in our lives, right? So when you think about 2024 for yourself, you've had an amazing, I feel like last year you just did some incredible things with what you're doing with Bourbon Enthusiasm. What's next?
Oh, yeah. I was curious too. That's what I was going to ask.
So what's next? Continuing to, take stock of the landscape. I really want to do a better job of really trying all of the whiskeys that are out there, whether it's American single malt, which is having a really big moment right now, straight malts, and really kind of bringing that education to people, not just through reviews, but writing about it in interesting and ways that are going to make people feel drawn to American whiskey in a way that maybe they aren't right now. Kind of give people an accessible point to kind of get into American whiskey. And then from there, I also want to continue to talk to people who are behind the scenes. And I think that talking to the producers, talking to master distillers, it's something that's, covered, but I think it's something that more people want access to.
Yeah.
Consumers are more savvy than ever, so people want more information than ever. So I feel like having a chance to get that information directly from the people who matter, like a Conor O'Driscoll, for instance, that's... you can't put a price tag on that. There are people who travel all the way to Kentucky and don't get that type of access and information. So I kind of want to continue to make that information accessible to people and be able to bring that to the fore. I think that's what I'm excited about.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Any little tidbits on Kentucky that if somebody hasn't been to Kentucky yet or is thinking about going, obviously, we strongly encourage it, but any recommendations, any hot spots that you love?
Yeah, definitely go to Nami, Chef Ed Lee's restaurant. Fantastic. And if you go, do not sleep on the karaoke upstairs. Go to the karaoke room and belt out your favorite song. I highly recommend
there's karaoke upstairs.
There you go.
Really?
There you go.
Does Chef Lee join you for that?
He started to, and then he thought better of himself.
Did you sing up there? Did you karaoke yourself?
I sang a little song.
Oh my gosh. What song?
I did Usher. I did some Usher.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I danced also.
All right.
I'm so bummed I missed this, man.
Yeah.
I need.
Well, I know what we're doing next
this.
time we're in Kentucky.
Please.
100%. We'll drink some bourbon.
Usher performance by Frank Dobbins.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's the thing nobody wants when they go to Kentucky.
Any other shout outs to some of your favorite spots?
Yeah. So we went to one of our favorite spots, or my favorite spots was Neat. I would say go check out Neat for
Shout out
sure.
Owen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Owen's
He has
fantastic.
curated an unbelievable dusty selection there.
It's
Phenomenal.
amazing.
Yeah.
Not only the bar, but the bottle shop right next
Bottle
door.
shop
So if you
is
see something that
dream.
you're curious about anything, you can grab it right there. Besides that, I would say Frankfurt Ave Liquors, Evergreen. Clearly go to a lot of bars when you're in Kentucky.
Yeah. North of Bourbon.
North of Bourbon.
Yeah. That's the new hotspot. Amazing food.
Great place.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I just want to say thank you, sincerely,
Thank you.
Frank. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you over these last 6 months. And I can tell you that for me, you've brought a wealth of information, joy, and gratitude into my life. So from the Bourbon Lore family to you, much love, brother. And thank you for everything. And thanks for joining us here today at Clay's Place. So.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Mason. Honestly.
Keep doing what you're doing, man.
It's such an honor to be here. Thank you all for having me. Again,
Hey.
Clay, thank you for hosting us, and it's been a pleasure to meet all of you in the last couple of years.
Likewise.
Now we really need to get Clay to take us down to the secret basement with the vault door and take a look behind Bourbon Lore door number 2 of what's in that collection. So we can't take any cameras down there, but let's roll.